Hi guys, hi everyone. Okay, who's around? Who's with us? Okay, so yeah, who's there? Who's there? Say hi if you're around. Ooh. Okay, so yeah, basically, just thought of sharing my story, how I moved in my education story, who I am, how I became the person I am today, and yeah, basically just knowing me. Now, I think I've not really been good with people. If I was to be honest, my school has always been the only thing perhaps I've always known to say I am okay with. Otherwise, everything else, I think I've always considered myself to be not very good at so many things. I play chess, but I'm not very good at it either. But yeah, school has always been the one thing that I've always known to say it's going to be, if it's not school, then I don't know what I am good at or what I can actually manage. Now, when I first came to the university, initially, like right now, if you look at the courses I teach I teach physics, entry level physics. I can teach math, and then I think this year I picked up courses like Triple E. I also started looking at courses like CEE for second years, including math for second years. But in terms of a professional level, I only did physics. I don't know if you guys know that. Most of my students, when I tell them to say, I've never done CEE, I've never done Triple E, and I only did physics. My degree is basically just physics with education. That is the degree that I did. But I picked up the other courses. Physics is related. You can say physics is related to CEE and Triple E. Some of these concepts we've looked at them in physics, but not all of them. I have to say, some of the concepts I have to sit down, go through them, try to understand them, and after that, sit down and explain to the students I teach. I'm always upfront with my students, telling them exactly how it's working, and so on. Okay, I am thinking of changing the layout of this. Currently, it's showing that I'm casting. It's showing my screen, and this is way too small. Perhaps I should change this and set it up with so that there's more of me and less of that display, which seems to be a little bit blurred. What do you guys think? Should I start? Should I restart the whole thing where I'm not casting, or you're okay with this version where I can write on the screen if I need to? What do you guys think? Is it okay like this, or we try to switch it up? Let me know in the comments if we should try to get more of my face on the screen and less of the writing in portrait mode. Let me put it like that. Is this version okay? Okay, I think this should be better. Okay, so better now, great. So yeah, basically I only did physics at uni. I never did anything other than physics. Graduated a few years back, and I think that was in in 2019. So I graduated in 2019. Yeah. And yeah, most of you would say that I am good at what I do. Maybe I am, but that is basically just your opinion. Everyone who has ever told me that, I've always refused. I consider myself to be very average. If I showed you my academic qualifications, my transcript to be specific, I will show you, I think, as we go on, so that you guys just get to see. The point of me doing this is hopefully someone out there gets to understand, to say that you can be maybe bad at some point, but still get to be very okay as you go on. Now, how did it work for me? When I first started my studies, that was, I think I first came in 2013 October. That was when our academic year opened. Now I have to say, it was okay. The university was way more smooth than the way it is for you guys. You guys have got way more challenges right now. The school is so disorganized, that is if you're at UNZA. Way too disorganized, and then you guys are way too many. Your lecture rooms are not conducive enough to accommodate the numbers. You write tests and quizzes standing. That is just too much already. Now, for us, I think it was much, much better. When I started, I enrolled in the School of Education, and and that was Bachelor's of Science with ED. That is BSc ED. This is the program that I came in, that I came for. Ideally, I did want to do engineering, if I'm being honest. I did want to do something which is engineering related, either make or maybe did I think of civil? No, I think maybe make or electrical or something computational, something to do with computers. Those were perhaps the things that gave me interest. But at that point, or during that time, it was highly competitive to get into the university, worse, the School of Natural Sciences. It was very difficult. So I didn't want to risk it, because for me, what I knew was, if it's not UNZA, it would be very difficult for me to do anything else. So when applying, I thought, if UNZA leaves me out, what will I do? What else will be available to me? So I didn't want to risk being left out because I chose to go in the School of Engineering, and then UNZA leaves me. So I didn't want to risk it. That's why I applied in the School of Education. So when I applied in the School of Education, I think someone advised me to say, well, the Bachelor's of Science degree is just as good as, or it's close enough to the engineering that you want. So that's how I ended up applying for that. And they picked me. So I ended up doing physics. When I just started at the university, I was doing 3 of the sciences. I had physics in first year, I had math, and I had chem. But I never had bio. So during that time, I had one thing in mind. I think the person who advised me to say that I go in the School of Education, that person told me to say that it would be possible for me to change schools. Like, I could start in the School of Education, but if I did very well, I would be able to switch from School of Education to perhaps engineering, the engineering that I wanted. So the person told me that I could do that. So with dreams of a possibility of me changing from School of Education to School of Engineering, I got motivated to actually work extra hard, because the person told me so that I had to show that I was very good, so that even with the 3 courses, that time we were making points, I had to make enough points to go to the School of Engineering. So when I started, I'm telling you guys, I was super motivated. Motivation was key. I was studying almost every day. I started studying for my school before we even opened. I did physics, I think the first 6 topics before we even opened. It was the same thing for math. I gave myself a head start in math and in physics. Chem and bio, I think chem, to be specific, I barely touched it. But physics and math, I gave myself a head start. When we opened, I am telling you guys, the head start I gave myself did work, because I found physics and math very easy, especially the first few topics. because I kind of went through them, self-taught. So when it happened that we came in, you start asking your seniors, so guys, this is what I want to do. And then my seniors started telling me to say that, no, actually at UNZA, once you get in, if you came in the School of Education, you can't switch. If you switch, your bursary is gone. So that started to hit me because all I was looking at was I could change to the School of Engineering, and that was my motivation to work very, very hard. When we were writing the test one, I remember the first test we wrote was chemistry. I even remember the question that I felt. It was empirical formula. I think, yeah, empirical formula. I think it was something like, was it starch? It had four elements, and they gave us the percentages for the three, but the last one was not given. Ideally, of course, you guys know to say if they give you percentages for the three, then to find the fourth, just less the three, the sum of the three from 100%, you get the percentage of the remaining one. But somehow during that test, I didn't see that. I failed to do that, and I failed to account for the fourth element. So that was the only question that I failed in that test, and it reduced me to like a 60 something percent, and that hurt me because I was going for perfection, and had I got that question right, I would have had over 80% in that exam. And that test, that is the first test, was a chem test. The next one was a math test, and for math was one of my strongholds at that time. And because I was going for perfection, I prepared and I was okay. Math, everyone says time is your enemy in math. So I tried by all means to race against time. I prepared, everything was okay. I knew all the topics. I went to write my first math test. And I even remember the room I was writing from. I tried to write as fast as possible. I finished with 30 minutes to spare. That's how fast I was. And I even used that 30 minutes to start revising, like going through the questions, especially the questions I thought they carried a lot of marks and it was easy to make mistakes with those. So I did that. But then the problem that I made, the few questions I never checked through, which were the basic ones like intervals and the likes, those are the ones that where I actually made mistakes. When I was finishing, I thought I was going to get 100%. I was so sure and confident that 100% was in the bag. But what happened? Did not. Mistakes, intervals, basic ones, very, like the easiest questions were the ones where I made the most mistakes. And in the end, instead of getting the 100% I was hoping for, reduced me to like, I think it was 80% that I got there. All in all, I was doing very well. I was in a class with medical students, those who were aspiring to do medicine. Would be helping them. I remember I had two other friends, would be helping the guys out. That's how good we were in our group. And then wrote physics. I also did very well. I think I got around the 80s. A lot of people didn't do well, but we did very well in my group. I think we're about the two of us. But my studying style was way different. Like I was never good with study groups, but we only met with two other guys to just work out questions. But what disturbed me the most was what the seniors would say. I wanted to change schools from education to engineering, but every time when you talk to a senior, the only thing they say is you can't change schools. And the the hope that I'd go to the School of Engineering was what was making me get the good grades. But the minute that was taken away from me, I lost my drive to work hard, I lost my motivation, and everything just changed. I stopped studying every time. I stopped attending classes and I just started gliding through. Because to me, I was like, okay, well, if I'm not aiming for an A plus, why should I be studying like a med student? So I just said, okay, all I have to do is just get a C. All I have to do is just pass. That's all. And guys, I'm telling you, that had a big blow on who the person I ended up being. Because without the motivation to get very good grades, or without the motivation to study every day, it now meant that I just had to pass. I told myself, okay, I don't need to attend classes every day to pass. That was in my head. Just have to perhaps memorize a few things, then I'm good. And that showed in the next series of tests that we wrote. I performed badly in the second series of tests, and the exam was the worst, if I'm to be honest, because I remember writing the final exam for physics where I was the strongest. And my CA was very good. I think I had the 30 something out of a 50. But I was writing that exam and I was barely counting marks to say, how many marks do I need for me to clear this course? And that was very, very bad because I thought I was very good in physics. So the exam really did a number. The comments that the seniors made to say I can't change schools, those comments made me lose my motivation. So the comments made me lose my motivation, and without my motivation, it was hard for me to actually proceed with the same energy that I had. I started failing tests. I started missing classes. In my mind, I thought I now just needed to get a C or to pass, just to pass, barely pass, and that would be okay. That's what I started going for. So from that point, what I would say, you guys, is be very careful the person you ask advice from. Because if you ask the wrong person, they will tell you something which will impact the way you do your thing, the energy that you have. So listening to the wrong person might have a very bad impact on you. So be very careful on that. Now, what happened? I wrote the exam and wasn't very good, I have to say. Not the A's I was hoping for when we were starting. I will show you my transcript. Would you guys want to see my transcript at some point? Would you want to see the A's or the D's or the C's of my transcript? Would you want to see those? Who would want to see those? You claim I'm very smart, but would you want to see my degree and what is there? Do you think it says distinction or merit or credit or silent? Okay, someone says yes. I think I'll show you. I'll show you at some point. I think I don't want this to last way too long, but I still want to just get what worked for me and how I bounced back. Okay, so generally, when the comments came in, they really played a number on me, and I lost it all. I barely just started surviving. We wrote the first year exams. I cleared all my courses, but I just cleared. You'd think the first year physics I teach so well right now that maybe I had an A in physics, I had this in math. You'd be surprised when I show you my results. In second year, that negative attitude I adopted in first year, I carried it to second year, and the results were not any better. Because it was the same thing. I would miss classes and I would only go to write maybe when there's a test. My attitude was so bad. At one point, there's one course where I missed all the assessments. I missed the tests. No, not the test. The tests, I was there for those. I never did well, but I was there for those. But I never submitted a single assignment. I never wrote a single quiz. The quizzes and assignments, I think those carried about 5%. In my head, I was like, what's 5%? I think I can do without 5%. All I have to do is just get a C and pass. That's how bad my attitude was. Now, what happened was there was this course, and in that course, my CA was very bad going towards the exam. I remember I used to miss classes and I barely studied. My attitude was memorize on the last day. So I was going to write this exam. My CA was out of 40. I think I had like a 16. Very bad. But what happened was this. You see, even though I lost motivation, even though my attitude was very bad towards school, one thing that I knew very well was I could not afford to fail, as in I could not afford to be excluded from school or to lose my sponsorship. That never left my mind. Because I knew without the bursary, my single parent would not be able to sponsor me anywhere else. I was like, a nursing school. I doubt if she'd be able to sponsor me to a nursing school. I thought nothing would work because if the bursary was the one thing that was keeping me in school. So if I lost the bursary, then I don't know what would have happened. So that thought was always in my mind. Even though I missed classes, I always knew that it's a C, yes, but not to fail, not exclude. That was always in my mind. Now, when I was in second year writing the final exams, what happened was there was this course. I was doing badly in literally all my courses, but there was one course where my CA was way too bad. Math, the similar to the 2110 that I teach you guys now, math was not okay as well. Then we had what? I also had that was physics. A lot of physics courses, they were also not very good. So what happened was I started analyzing. I was like, okay, if I fail more than 3 courses here, I'll be excluded from school. I'll lose the bursary, which is not good. So I had to choose courses where I could actually pass. I was like, okay, I can't fail 3 courses. At least maybe failing one, but not all the, not 3, not to be excluded. That I knew very well. Then I was like, which courses then can I save? I remember one time, one course, the same course I'm talking about, it was classical mechanics. We talk about relativity there, Isaac Newton's, the law of special relativity, general relativity, and the likes. So I was thinking to myself, I was like, okay, this course I have a 16 out of 40 as a CA. Can I actually pass this? We were writing the exam the following day. It was very cold. It was, I think, mid-year exams. And I was thinking to myself, I spent the whole night studying for that course. Like, not, let me not say studying, I think it was memorizing. But I was literally going through the book. From the first thing we did to the last thing, I revised through everything that we learned in class. I did all that from like 20 hours the night before to like, I think 8. And then the exam was at 9. I didn't sleep. I never took energy drinks, by the way. I even up to now, I still stay awake the whole night, but I still don't take energy drinks. So I would advise you guys to be using those Wildcats or Red Bull and so on. You can stay awake if your mind is just up to it. I think I only had water. Even up to now, I stay awake on just nothing but water. For those I teach around 02 midnight and the likes, I think they'll attest to that. I get tired sometimes, sleep, but I never sleep during class. Okay, so I was going to write that exam. My CA was very bad. In my mind, I knew failure was not an option. I went to write that exam, and in that exam, I remember when I opened the exam paper, I was like, okay, question 1. I was just looking at question 1, so it should be okay. Question 2, I was like, okay, yeah, similar. I've looked at this topic during the night, should be okay. I selected 5 questions. It was answer in a 5. Was it 5? I think it was 5. Yeah, it was 5. Answer in a 5. So I picked my 5 questions out of 6, and I think it was out of 7. I picked my 5 questions, and once it was time to start, I went to the first question. I headed it, question 1 on my answer booklet, and I was like, I started. It was something about an integral. And after writing the question, in my approach of answering questions, I always start. I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to know this. I always start, regardless of what it is, whether I know how to proceed, I just start. I'll copy the question if it's a mathematical expression, and then proceed from there. But what happened was this. After copying the question down, I didn't know what to do. I was lost. I tried to think through, I was lost. My brain was tired because I just put an all-nighter. And I was like, okay, this is bad. Okay, fine. I crossed out question 1 from my answer booklet. I went to question 2. What happened? Same thing. I wrote question 2 on my answer booklet, tried to start answering that question. Again, I was stuck. I didn't know how to proceed. That happened even up to question 3. Now, that was bad. I knew to say that I would panic, or if that continued. So I closed my answer booklet. I was like, okay, this is bad. I am panicking now. If I panic, everything is lost. I'll fail this course, guaranteed. It was chaotic, I have to say, guys, and that was really, really bad. Now, I closed the answer booklet, sat for like 10 minutes, doing nothing, with my eyes open. I couldn't close my eyes because I knew if I closed my eyes, I would sleep through the whole 3 hours. So I was up, but I just closed the booklet. I was okay. I am panicking now. And if I fail the next question, my morale will be hit. And I doubt if I'll be able to survive this exam. Then I asked myself, how then do I best continue? I was like, Jeff, look for the only question that you can solve from start to finish. Before you even write the question number on, find the question that in your brain, in your head, you know you can solve to the very end. That's what I looked for. I went in the paper. I checked from the first question, pens down. I looked for the one question that I could answer from start to finish. I found it. It was question 5, I think question 5C. The thing about that question was, it was a question that I just memorized. Like I looked at it when I was dressing up going to write that exam. And it was a tutorial. I think the last tutorial I attended, the tutor worked it out. So I remembered not how he did it, but exactly what he did. I remember the steps. So I was like, okay, he did this, then he did that. I don't know why he did that, but he wrote this after that. So I was like, okay, this one I know from start to finish. So I wrote down question 5C, and I just wrote down everything that the tutor did until the final answer. That was a good starting point, guys, because from there I looked for the next question that I could answer also from start to finish, and I found it. Guys, from a state where I was failing the exam, what I can tell you is that exam became the first B plus. Was it the first B plus I had? I think so. Because from failing it, I aced it. By the time I managed to answer the first 3 questions, I went back to the first question I failed. Because remember in question 1, I wrote it down, failed to proceed, failed to integrate. But after finding one question that gave me the morale, the boost, I went back to question 1, tried it, and I saw what I had to do. And in the 5 questions I was supposed to write, I wrote only 4 questions. And I can tell you, in physics or in science, it's true, I think also in CEE and Triple E, you know when you're failing and you know when you're passing, because in most cases you can literally mark yourself as you're writing that. You know to say, okay, this one I've got it right, this one I've got it right, and you know this one I was just guessing. I was done writing, and I remember telling my friends after that exam to say that, guys, that exam, I've got an A. And the guys were laughing about it. And I was the best student in that course. I did get that B plus. But even up to now, it doesn't add up how I got that B plus because my CA was just so bad. And I wrote only 4 questions out of 5. But the 4 questions I wrote, I made sure I aced them. I made sure those 4 questions were written to perfection. And yeah, after that, my lecturer started looking for me. Where's Jeff? Where's Jeff? He never even knew me, he just saw the name. But after marking, I'm guessing he was like, okay, who is this person who almost got everything correct? But I was back to being me, missing classes, because I had no energy. I had no morale to do well. What do you learn from that? My point from that story is this, guys. I had a bad CA. I went in an exam with a very bad CA. Everything about my exam preparations towards that point was saying I was failing. I remember thinking out to say that I was given a test with 4 topics. I failed it. Test 1. I had test 3 with 3 topics. I failed it. So that I was going in an exam with just 16 out of 40. But what was the likelihood that I would be given 8 topics in the exam and pass those 8 topics? To me, that was a mountain to climb. And I know you guys might be facing something like that always as you prepare for your exams. But how did I pull it off? I knew failing was not an option. The problem that we sometimes give ourselves, or the problem that some of you guys would, you tell yourself options. You tell yourself to say that if I fail, at least I'll go and do nursing. Maybe you don't tell yourself that loudly in your mind, but it's something that is just there. You have a backup plan. The minute you give yourself a backup plan, you have something to do. Your motivation just goes down. But if you're like me, someone who knows to say that school is the only thing that you have running for you, then I'm telling you, failing is not an option. Your brain, or as a person, you'll find a way to actually bounce back. A bad CA cannot be something that makes you fail or lose motivation to study or want to even change schools. Change schools if you feel you're doing the wrong program. Change schools if you feel maybe something else is affecting your stay at the university where you are. But not because you have a bad CA going towards an exam. You like at this point, you guys have a lot in terms of time before you actually write that exam. And all you need to be honest, like there are people who study 2 hours per day or maybe 3 hours per day. Those guys can maintain that frequency of studying and they still do very well. I know a couple of friends who were studying like that going into the exam, and those guys were very good. I remember one female friend of mine back in uni. She was very good and she never studied like the all-nighters that would pull. All she did was 3 hours. Between her lectures, should go study. Serious student, no funny business. Every now and then should rest, maybe do something fun. But she maintained 3 hours every day of studying from day one of the academic year to the very end. And with that attitude, she never panicked towards the end because she had something working and she was smart, I have to say. But then there are some of us who have lost time already. Maybe you didn't manage your time very well at the beginning. If you did that, what that means is you must then punish yourself now because you have time to make up for. But punishing yourself, I'm telling you, if you know school is the only thing that you have, punishing yourself and sleeping less is a small price to pay. Because if you know that it has to be school, if it's not school, then it's nothing. Trust me, you can tell yourself that in the remaining 2 months or in the remaining month, you can be sleeping for 3, 4, 5 hours and still write the exam and still be okay. After the exam, you have all the time you need to rest. One other thing that I can say is, especially this time around, some of you push yourself to attend lectures even when you don't understand a single thing in your lecture. I think that's not okay. If it's a lecture where yes, you might be quizzed or something, then yes, you can attend it. But the thing is, if at all you do not get a single thing from a lecture, then what's the point of attending that lecture in the first place? Walking into a lecture room, someone talks, writing notes, and all you're doing is copying, trying to keep up with them. When you leave that lecture room, you have no idea what was happening there. I think it's pointless. You are as good as not going for that lecture room and sitting on your own trying to study the same thing. Or just sit back, get notes from someone who actually understands something from that lecture room, and then try to study on your own because that is valuable time that you're spending there without understanding a single thing. That is my opinion. If you understand from your lecture, or yeah, what I would say is analyze the lectures that you have, the courses that you have. Pick the ones where you actually understand something when you're there. Those are a must. Make sure you attend them. Then the courses where you perhaps don't get anything when you are in that class, and there is no roll call or someone checking names of who is present and so on. Trust me, for those, you can just skip them. Study on your own. Use that time to rest if you are studying the whole night. Use that time to go to the library and study on your own than going to a lecture room where you just sit, copying notes. And sometimes, worse, when you're not understanding what is happening, you'll be copying wrong things because the person will be writing so fast, you're trying to catch up as well. In the end, you just copy wrong things. So that is basically what I'd want you guys to get from that part. Now, what worked? I graduated eventually with a physics degree, but it was perhaps not in a way that I would have wanted to actually do that. Because remember, my morale was hit and I was in a bad place. My attitude towards school was not very good. I knew I could not afford to fail, but still, Let me just do this. I knew I could not afford to fail, but still I was not energetic or motivated enough to look for more or strive for more in school. Because of that, I was barely just gliding. I remember in fourth year, my graduation year, let me say, starting from second year, what actually started happening was this. From second year going to third year, remember I had so many courses which were at risk of me failing. I think I mentioned that. And I had to strategically figure out the courses I could save so that I don't get expelled from school. I don't get, I don't get kicked out of uni because of bad grades. So I managed to save most of my courses, but I failed one course. So I failed one course there. So by the time I was going from second year to third year, what I was looking at was actually proceed and repeat. So I was able to proceed. I kept my bursary, which was key for me. But the ugly part of that was that I had to carry one course. So I failed, I proceeded, but I had to repeat a course. So I know what failure is. I have failed. This was not the only time. Guess what? Because my attitude, I didn't learn anything from that. Because this part, for me to fail and proceed, the thing is, it didn't change how much I had to pay. I still maintained my bursary. So with that, I didn't learn anything. I maintained my same attitude. And when I moved from third year to fourth year, guess what? I failed another course. And this time around, it was 3100, the math course. So I failed this math course. And for those I teach engineering, this is the math course I'll be teaching. I will be teaching this course next year. I'll be teaching 3100 as well. Not 31. This is 3100, but for the engineering, I think I'll teach 3110. But they're basically the same thing: Laplace, Fourier transform, and so on. So I failed that course. From second year to third year, I had 2100, I mean, which is similar to 2110. This year, I have been teaching 2110, and you guys would think that maybe for me to teach 2110, maybe I aced 2100 the time I was doing it. But my attitude was so bad, I can tell you guys this. I failed test 1 2100. I remember I sat, it was an NSLT, and it was going so badly that I looked at the person who was in front of me and I was like, how do I briefly considered copying, but I had never copied in my entire life. I didn't even know how to do it. And the person was busy writing, and I'm thinking to myself, what on earth is that person writing? Because this test is just so hard. And the person was just busy writing, and I had no idea what they were writing. Why? I had a bad attitude. My attitude towards school was just so bad. Right now, if you look at the way I would answer questions, whether it's 2100 or it's 2110, I can answer most of the questions. I always say one thing: if you've never seen it before, you can't answer it. But right now, I think about it sometimes to say, these are the things, like, I'm teaching. I'll be teaching the guys in my class. I'll be like, these are the questions I failed, those conic sections. I remember, like, parametric equations. I was teaching parametric equations recently, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, I remember parametric equations would always come in these tests, and I would be clueless. I would be thinking, how do I change from symmetric to parametric, or from parametric to symmetric? That was always a challenge. But right now, it's as clear as day what I have to do, and the difference is motivation. I am committed to the guys I teach in my class. I am committed to say when I upload something on YouTube, it has to be something that is perfect. I do a lot of research before I actually upload something. I am motivated to maintain that level of that caliber in my work. But it's the motivation that I never had when I was actually doing this for my benefit back in uni. So I never had all that. Because I lacked that motivation, my grades were just terrible. So that was that. So math from third year going to fourth year, I had failed 3100. I got a D there. I had to repeat it. So the time I went to fourth year, I had math to repeat. And one thing I'll tell you guys is this: math is the only course that you can fail. My opinion again. It's the only course that you can fail 5 times and write it the sixth time and still have an equal chance of failing it as you did in the first time. I used to say that back during those times, and it's still the same thing now. I think math, if your attitude is wrong, math is just difficult. It's not something that you can pass by memorizing. Math requires you to practice. My approach of missing classes, studying on the last day, could have worked if I was doing a business related courses, maybe where there's just a lot of notes that you have to memorize, or maybe even history, where it's the same things that are not changing. But in a field like the sciences, where things are twisted, or math, where questions are not repeated but they just bring things which are similar, memorizing is bad when a question is changed even a little bit, because you don't know the concept, you'll be lost. That's the problem with memorizing. So that affected me a lot. So in fourth year, I had math to carry, and my attitude was still wrong. I was in a graduating class. I remember in third year, I had an exam. That exam was in a course I was so good at, digital electronics. Let me just say electronics. I was very good at that course. And what happened? That was digital electronics. I was very good in this course, and everyone in my class, I think they found this to be very easy. So digital electronics. I went to write this exam, and while in the exam, we're writing this, and I remember writing 3 questions. My CA was very good, about 36 out of 50, and to clear, you only needed a 40. So I needed just a few marks to clear. So answer NF5. I wrote 3 questions, and I just choosing parts. I would answer maybe this part, move to that part. I answered the easiest questions in that paper first. And then after attempting 3 questions, I remember I sat down. I was like, the 3 questions I've written, I think I've cleared. I was like, yeah, I think I've cleared. I only needed like what? Like 12% from the exam to clear my whole thing, my whole course. So like, I think I've cleared, and I've got enough extra marks to keep myself okay. So what happened? Since I told myself that okay, I've cleared already, and remember I was the person who only wanted a C, then I move on. Guys, I left the exam room. Not because everything I could write was exhausted, but because in my mind I had cleared, I'd written enough to clear. I left that exam room and left. 1 hour 30 minutes into the exam room, I left. To me, I'd written enough to clear that course. So I left. When the results came back, I think I had a B in that course. But my friends who stayed in that exam till the very end, I think one guy had an A, others had B pluses. I think someone even had an A plus in that course. That's how easy it was. But I settled for just to clear because, again, I had zero motivation to do very well. At that time, I didn't see the value of doing very well, the benefits it would have, or the impact of me just getting C's, what that would do to me. So I only looked to survive, just to make sure I wasn't excluded. So that's how it used to be. That's how bad I was. Going into fourth year, writing the exam, remember I had a course to carry in fourth year. I was carrying that math, that third year math. And that affected my performance in third year and fourth year, I mean. Plus, I still had that negative attitude. In the end, fourth year was a graduation year. I was literally supposed to graduate after that. But my attitude was still bad, and I had a lot to do, and so on. Plus, it was just chaotic. I failed one course again. What did this imply? Well, fourth year being my final year, failing one course meant that I now missed my graduation. This, guys, was bad. I missed my graduation. All my friends graduated and I did not. Everyone in my intake graduated and I did not. I remained behind. That was sad. That was very sad. And I had to repeat just one course. I remember the time I was writing this course, guys, it was a physics course. And I was writing it from one of the rooms in the School of Education there. And I think it was statistical mechanics. It was basic. It was things where they repeat stuff, but because my attitude was bad, I wanted to memorize it all on the last day, and that just didn't cut it. And I was writing this in the exam room, guys. Again, you know when you're failing. To be honest, it's not something that should shock you when results come and then you find you failed a course. I think that just tells you that you are really not serious, very not serious. But for anyone who is ever in a position to actually picture anything, you know while you're writing an exam that okay, this course is not doing well. When results are coming out, you even notice I knew it. I really didn't do anything here, unless maybe if a lecturer just judices you or something. But otherwise, you really know when you're not doing well. For that course, it was bad. I really knew nothing. While the exam was still on, I think about 30 to an hour minutes into the exam room, I considered a lot of things. Let me just to, you guys will find this funny. I considered suicide. I was like, okay, I'm failing. I won't graduate. Maybe I should just kill myself because the embarrassment will just be too much. Maybe I should just kill myself here. Just climb over the School of Education and then just jump from that building so that by the time the results are coming out, everyone will just be thinking, ah, he's dead already, blah, 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 and so on. I thought about that. The other thing that I thought about was, if only these scripts could go missing. I'm sure everyone who's ever failed a course has thought about that. Like, if only these scripts could go missing, maybe you should just set something ablaze, maybe not just your script, everyone, so that everyone has to retake that. It was just bad. In the exam room, I knew I was failing, and that was just something else. But I kept cool because I knew to say that me killing myself would not solve anything. Because in the end, I think every parent would appreciate you than a good grade because they know. Imagine how much they invest into you. A parent, I think, any well-to-do parent, not well-to-do. Most parents, I think, when they tell us to not do this, not do that. But to be honest, when you make a mistake, they know to say at a certain age, like at your age, you guys, to be honest, you might have tortured yourself already mentally before anyone comes to tell you to say that what you did was bad. Unless if you're just one of those people who do something and then to you it sounds like it's okay, even though generally everyone knows to say it's not okay. Failing that course, when the results came out, I actually did fail that course. I remember mom was just telling me, said, oh, okay, so what does it mean for you? What is happening? She was all supportive, very supportive. I think that lady was always supportive throughout. Because I had tortured myself already about that. To be honest, I tortured myself about that course more in the same exam room than when the results came out. When they came out, it was only a matter of what does it mean? What courses am I repeating? And so on. So I had to repeat a year on part-time. A year just doing one course. It was sad, I have to say. You'd go to a lecture room, you're learning with people who were apparently your juniors, but you now had to learn with them because you were not serious in school. So I had to suffer through that. I did that course, and even then I was so terrible at it. And my attitude was even worse. I have to say, the last thing that I'd advise you guys to even try to do is going to part-time, repeating an entire year, missing graduation to graduate with a different intake. That's just sad, guys. If you find yourself in that position, yeah, it's okay, you can do it, but it really comes out sad. I remember my attitude was even worse this time. When I walked into the lecture room, I went a month late. And the lecturer who was teaching that course was one lecturer who was strict about attendance. When she looked, the department is so small, everyone knows everyone. When I walked into that lecture room, the lecturer kept quiet for a bit and just looked at me. Till I sat, I knew one thing. After the class, I went straight to her office to apologize because I knew I was going to fail that course. So I lived through that, and eventually we wrote the exams. I cleared the course, but the time it was graduation, I was very sad because everyone who was graduating happy, they were not from my intake. All I was seeing were strangers. Everyone in my intake had already graduated. This was not good, guys. You know that joy you have on your graduation with your friends? I didn't have it because all my friends had gone. They had already graduated and I was there graduating with my juniors. So I graduated, I got my degree, and I went into society. Now, I think you guys wanted to see my degree. With all that, I'm sure now you have a good idea of how my degree would look like. So, can I show you? I think I have it somewhere. Let's see, let me get it from the drive. I think I'll show you my transcript. Because, yeah, just in case. It's not pretty, guys. I would advise you guys to be serious from the get-go. Because the thing about not being serious with your academics when you're doing all this is it does have an impact, because when you're sending these applications for employment, the thing that people see, it's not you or your reputation or anything. The thing that the employers see first is your paper, your qualification. That's what these guys see first. But imagine if your qualification it's only showing proceed and repeat, a course that you failed. It shows this, it's only showing bad grades. They don't see you for who you are, but they only see the results on your paper. So to be honest with you guys, if you don't have good grades on your paper, if your paper is littered with bad results, the only people who know you to be smart are the people who actually interact with you. Sadly, the employers are not part of the people who interact with you. So my advice is have enough energy, enough motivation to strive for a good grade. Whenever you have a chance for an A, get that A. Whenever you have a chance to avoid a D, avoid it. Don't settle for just survival, because it's not, that C might be your downfall one time. So let's see the transcript. Let's see the transcript. Yeah, you guys think I'm this smart person. Let me show you just how not smart I am. Now, how do I manage with the CEE, the Triple E, the courses I teach, even the math I was so terrible at? Like I mentioned, it's motivation. Right now, I am so motivated to do well, to teach the correct things. And it's that motivation that makes me work very hard to make sure that I actually manage what I teach you guys. I don't consider myself to be very smart, to be honest, but I consider myself to be motivated to do what I do. Okay, this is still loading, it's almost done, but I don't know if the D's can show from here, but let's give them time. So I think we'll be ending soon. Do you guys have any questions? Anything that you might want me to say as we wait to see the transcript? Any questions? Any comments anything you might want me to answer as we look at the transcript one last time. This is taking way too long to open. Let's try this. Okay, there we go. There we go. So yeah, this is my transcript. This is me. As you can see, like I mentioned, this is, I think you don't have, what's that? Let's see. A superficial understanding of things. How do you learn and study? I don't understand that question. Just try to rephrase it. How do I learn and study? Try to rephrase that, please. So while we're getting that, this is first year, guys. This is first year. As you can tell, I did mention that physics had barely survived there. I had a C plus there. Chemistry, I had a C there. Math, I had a C plus. Then that educational course, I had that B. That educational course was barely just a given. It was not, so it did play into my attitude of memorizing. But all in all, the 3 courses there, these are courses where I was doing very well before I had lost my motivation. My CA, guys, if I could find my scripts there, I would show you to say I was super good at them. The first test I did very well, but it was the last topics where I just went downhill, and it was just sad after that. I took that bad attitude into second year, and look at that. Second year was even worse. This is the course where at the end here, this B plus here, this is the course where I was saying that I was literally collapsing halfway through the exam, but I just had that realization to say, okay, I am panicking now. Let me take a few minutes to just regroup, gather myself. And I looked for the easiest question to answer. And after that that moment, I found exactly what I needed, and I was able to pull it off. Okay, I mean, deep understanding of things. How do you sit on a book and suck it? Yeah, I think maybe it's wisdom, maybe it comes with age, or yeah, maybe it's with time. But to be honest, I was not, most of you guys or the people I teach, I've had the privilege of teaching people who are very good, much better than I could have ever been. But I help them. All I do is just guide them through the process of education. But otherwise, a deep understanding, I am not sure what qualifies to be a deep understanding. But yeah, I do agree. This time around, when I look at these concepts, they just add up. It's something that was not there the time I was doing my degree. These concepts would have perhaps taken me longer to understand, but it's interest. This course, for example, it's not here. I think it's coming on the 3rd year part, the electronics. It's something that I found interesting when I was doing it, and it was just easy for me to get. When you love something that you're doing, trust me, it's easy to understand it. But if you're doing your program, you're studying your degree, just because someone said go and do an engineering degree, it becomes torture. But I love what I do. I love teaching engineering, because if you heard when we started, I did say I actually did want to do engineering. I might do it in future, but because I love what I'm doing, it's easy for me to get it. And every time when I spend an hour struggling about something, it's that point of realization when you actually figure it out that actually just makes it all worth it. So it's the motivation. I am highly motivated to understand them now. It doesn't always work. Sometimes I need more time, But sometimes all I need is to look at a concept, and seeing how it is applied becomes easy. Partly it's because I've worked out so many questions, it becomes easy for me to get them. And what helps, I think, maybe it's also explaining. I get to explain the same concepts to different people a lot, such that if I explain the same concept to 5 people, by the time I'm explaining it to number 6, I understand it very, very well. So the one with the B plus there, this is the course where I was literally dying. Then I survived it and somehow ended up with that B plus. I was failing that course, blacked, sat for 30 minutes without writing anything, then boom, everything just came back to my head. But as you can see, I did have that D plus in magnetism. And guys, the lecturer in this course where I had this D plus, this is the lecturer who I walked in on when I was repeating that course, and then she kept quiet for a few minutes just to say, this guy is in my class again, and he's coming a month late. He's missed a month worth of lectures. This is when he's coming. That lecture is just a parent. Otherwise, she could have easily failed me that course again. But I think she just felt bad to say I was repeating the course. Yeah. This is third year. And as I mentioned, this is multivariable calculus, third year math. Again, I'd passed everything else. I even had a couple of B's. Teaching methodology, education, digital. The one with the B there, this is the course where I walked in after realizing that I'd passed. Just because I thought, I've passed, I've written enough, let me go. Then I left, I even stopped. I could have had more than that B, but I settled because I thought I had made enough already. And when you don't understand something for about hours, how do you not consider not wasting of time, not wasted of time, wasting time? Okay. You have to understand to say that failure will always be there. There will always be concepts where you sit down, look at them, and they just don't add up. But what I would say is, it's after you sit down for hours and hours, analyzing something continuously, and it just doesn't add up. In that case, that's when you look for someone who can actually help you. Ask them to say, okay, boy, how did you answer this? Or come to someone who you know to say they are very good at that. Then ask them. The only thing I would say is, don't ask someone when you haven't tried something already. It will be hard for you to get what they'll be explaining. The thing I always advise is, try a question out, try a concept out, and when you fail to understand it after trying it, that's when you approach someone who knows it and say, well, I've gone through this, and this is what I'm trying, but it's not working. Where am I missing it? When the person tells you what to do, because you've tried already, I'm telling you, it will be easy for you to remember. You'll be like, oh, okay, so this is where I was making a mistake. This is why I was not getting it, because I thought it was saying this, but according to what you've said, it actually means this. So that is what I would tell you. There's no time wasted when you're trying to understand something. Time wasted is when you choose to go visit a friend instead of studying, unless maybe if it's just your relaxing time. Time wasted is when you choose to go and watch a movie every Friday without knowing full well that you didn't study on Thursday. I'm not saying don't watch a movie on Friday. I'm saying only watch a movie on Friday if you know that you've studied on Monday, studied on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Then you'll be like, oh yeah, I deserve a break on Friday. Then give yourself that break. Wasting time is choosing to sleep peacefully, even yawning in your sleep, like snoring in your sleep, when you know full well that there are 6 topics that you haven't done. So that is what wasting time is. Resting is good, but how can you rest so comfortably, knowing that you have 5 topics that you have to learn, that you have to know, and you have an exam waiting tomorrow? So don't leave it to the very end, guys. You still have all this time to your exams. Start punishing yourself now to avoid trying to know 5 topics on the last day. I made it work sometimes, knowing 5 topics or the whole book in one night. But it doesn't work every time. As you can see from these results, there were so many times when it failed to work. Look at that D plus there. A good example when studying the whole night did not work. Look at this D here in math. Math is not something you can say that I'll memorize at night and I'll know it by morning. You can't do that in math. You cannot. What I'll tell you about math is work out questions. That, okay, I'm studying triple E today. I'm studying this course, but when you're relaxing, choose 1 or 2 questions in math. Okay, today I'm revising calculus, maybe differential calculus. Every time when you're taking a break, work out 1 question from calculus. Then continue studying again. When you're trying to, maybe you're relaxing or something, work out a question in math from the same topic. Then the following day say, today I'm revising conic sections. Study the other topics on your timetable, but when you are taking a break, work out 1 question. By the time the day is ending, you would have worked out up to 10 or 15 questions. In math, it's all about practice. The more questions you work out, the better you will be. So this was 3rd year. I went to 4th year. Our 4th year comes next, and this is the course I said, the course that made me fail to graduate. This course. I had a D in that course. It made me think of committing suicide, and yeah, luckily I did not. Yeah, I would have been sad. So there we have it. The other courses, again, you see, it's barely surviving. Education was always easy because those are just notes. Memorizing works for those easily. But this is basically who I was. Then I repeated that course, and guess what? Even after repeating it, I barely managed to do it. I just had that C. So these are my results, guys. As you can see, I'm not an A+ student. I am only able to teach you guys the things I teach you now because I am motivated to deliver what I promise you guys to. But other being smart, I'll leave that as your opinion. But all in all, anyone can do anything. The courses I teach now, they are courses I've never done before. But because I enjoy doing them, it's easy for me to do them. So if you enjoy engineering, you enjoy the program you're doing, just commit time to it. Punish yourself if you have to, and it will be worth it in the end. All right, guys, before we end our session, any questions? If it was helpful, I'm glad it was. For those who are able to stay up to the very end, hope you did learn something. I'm always around if you need to talk to me, if you want to maybe hear out, or maybe you want me to say something else. Feel free to reach out. I think you guys have my number. If you do not, I'd still be okay to share it. Always come through if you want to talk to me about something. I'm always cool with that. Now, guys, if there are any questions, you can still text them through. I think I'll still be here, but I think this is the end of our description. Hope I won't find my zeros anywhere else in the groups. This was just to help you guys. Now, guys, let me not take too much of your time. Go study, try to analyze what you've learned from this. I'll be here if you still want to talk to me. Bye, guys.